to The Insomniac Show with Nicolette and Brian. We'll get real deep with you, educating, inspiring, and solving problems with some of the most inspirational humans on the planet. Buckle up and come on the journey.
I'm excited.
All right, guys, I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are back with Feng Shui expert Jillian Rothschild Scholar, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about, she's going to talk to us about some spooky things, right? We're going to talk a little bit about
graves.
So we're also going to get into,
we're all going to die.
We're going to talk about some astrology.
That is the truth. That is the truth of that.
Yes. But, you know, we're very excited to have you back, Jillian. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk to y'all again.
Okay, so when we left off in our last episode, we were kind of going down this road of we were talking about Feng Shui, and maybe you just want to give us a recap of what Feng Shui is for anybody who missed the first episode and what you do, and then I want to talk a little bit about how this relates to some of the cultural stuff that you were telling us about.
Sure. So my name is Jillian Rothschild Scholar, and I am the owner and principal consultant at Feng Shui in Motion. So I really help people who are dealing with sort of big unanswered life questions, and they're looking for someone that they can trust to get some clarity so they can confidently move forward. And in my practice, I work with classical Feng Shui and some of the other resources in Chinese metaphysics, like Chinese astrology and divination using I Ching and Qi Men Dun Jia. Does that answer your question?
It does. All right. So how does all of this relate to graves?
So what is Feng Shui? So Feng Shui is the Chinese art and science of bringing harmony and balance into any kind of environment. And so when our physical environment is harmonious and balanced, then it lends support to our lives. And so when our lives are feeling supported by our physical environment, then it's just easier for us to achieve the things that we want in life, like well-being and good health and good relationships. Sometimes it's financial abundance. Sometimes it's just freedom, options, anything under the human umbrella that we can think of, Feng Shui can touch. And it's also part of the Chinese 5 arts, which include medicine, massage, exercise, things like Tai Chi and Qigong, medicine, herbalism, acupuncture, and geomancy, which is the earth component. So really, back in the day, if you were not feeling well in ancient times, not only would your doctor look at things like nutrition and other resources in the Chinese 5 arts to help you, but the doctor would also go to your house and see what's going on in your house. Are you sleeping on the wrong side of the mountain? Is it too windy? Is it too damp? Is there something in your physical environment that is causing you to not be well? So really it's a very holistic approach to living. And in ancient times, Feng Shui was used to site graves. So this is what's called yin house Feng Shui, and it's still practiced in Asia today. And the concept is very cultural, that when someone passes away, you want to orient the grave in a very specific manner in the land so that the person who has been deceased can be supported, and that energy can also impact the descendants. And so the ancestors are really helping the family continue to be prosperous and to be abundant and to be healthy and to continue to grow so the lineage can continue. So what's really beautiful, if you ever travel to Asia, like I was in Taiwan a few years ago, and these graves are really amazing. They have beautiful headstones, and you can see them sort of turned and angled in different ways. And it's going to be very specific based on the person and the orientation of the land. So it's really a beautiful and remarkable practice that's very effective. There's hundreds and thousands of years of data that show that this works. And so what we do with Feng Shui now in our modern world is an offshoot of Yin Feng Shui.
So now, do they go, okay, here's the plot of land. I'm going to pick a particular place on the land that I'm going to put this grave, not just the orientation of the headstones, but is the placement on whatever plot of land they're going to put this grave on important also?
Absolutely. So back in the day, all they had to do was like trek across the mountain and figure out where the right energy spot is on the, in that swath of land to figure out where to site it and then orient it in that spot, right? So it could be like, here's the mountain, put the grave over here on the mountain, and then orient it, that way. So I don't know what the formula is based on that particular spot, but that's the idea, is that you're going to find the right spot in the land where the mountain goes, the energy goes down the mountain. Here's why. So in the West, when we think about feng shui, there's a lot of talk about the facing of the house, meaning what the orientation, what it faces. But in China, the formula is it's the sitting. So it's what the energy is that goes down the mountain and how it hits the back of the house. So the sitting position is actually what all of the ancient texts are based on the formula. And then when they're translated to the West, it's all about the facing, because somebody decided that in the West, we weren't smart enough to figure out what the sitting means. And so it's all been like
backwards,
not backwards, but it's sort of been like not watered down, but sort of trivialized or, made to be more easily consumable here in the West. But if you actually read the text, it's based on the sitting. So the idea is that chi, or energy, rides on the wind and it stops at the boundary of water. But what it's doing is coming down the mountain. So you have what's called a vein of energy. It could actually be like a waterway, so you can see a vein, and then there's an energy spot where the vein stops in the land, and that's where the energy collects.
So in essence, it's almost like being in a valley, right? So if you live in a mountainous area, it's almost like being in the valley. That's the important part, correct?
Right. So you can like amazing. Now we have drone footage, right? You can see these beautiful drones that fly over the mountains, and you can see these beautiful lush mountains. And like right at the base of the mountain, there's like a little village, and it like looks totally quaint, and it's been there for hundreds of years. That's exactly it. They're finding the right spot around the mountain to put the houses. And so why are those houses doing really well? Because they're in the right energy spot.
Right. So now how does that relate to a grave, right? So I'm not going to put the grave in the valley, am I? Because I would want to put my house there, or do I put everything in the valley, right?
There's going to be the right spot it might not be next to your house, but it could be like the next mountain over.
I gotcha.
Oh my God.
So
well, Nicolette was freaking out because I was looking at a plot of land to buy, and it had a graveyard on it, and I was like, "This is awesome." Nicolette's like,
well, what you'd want to do first is just check the descendants of the are there any of the descendants still alive, and are they living in mansions? Like, how are they doing?
Yeah, that's right.
If it's sacred land, you might not want to dig it up.
No digging it up. No digging it up.
So wait, let me back up. Maybe I'm not fully comprehending. So
it's a deep concept. I know.
Okay, so let's say I pass away, right? Yeah. Now, how do you determine?
We're going to find a mountain. We're going to find a mountain, and we're going to follow it down.
You would plan for it.
Is it the same for everyone?
No, it's not the same for everybody.
Very personal.
It's very individual. So, like, ideally, you would plan for it, right? If you were living in Asia and you had lived a long life, and maybe you were in your 50s and 60s and you're concerned about your family and your descendants and your grandkids, and this was important to you, then you would hire a feng shui master who focuses on yin feng shui to look at the available land, and see what's best based on what's available. I mean,
and then basically that would help. Would that help my spirit as well?
Sure, of course, it's going to help you rest comfortably, right? You're going to in your living being, you're going to go, I'm prepping for my demise, right? I'm prepping for where I'm going to live in my afterlife, and I want to make sure I'm comfortable and that my spirit can be nurtured so that I can support my ancestors. Because again, this is very cultural, so there's a lot of connection to ancestry in Asia. More, in my opinion, more so than what happens here in the West, and how we were.
Wait.
Sorry, Nicolette, go.
Okay, hold on. So then let's say I'm not placed properly, right? Mm-hmm. What is there any talk of what happens? Yes, when I'm gone. Is there any talk of what happens then, what kind of negative consequences there are to not, like, when you say not resting comfortably, what does that mean?
Well, you're not going to know, right? Because you're going to be deceased, right? But your family,
I might know.
You might know, but you're not going to be able to communicate with the living, in theory, right? But what will happen is the family would know, the business is going to fall apart. The family would not, the lineage would not continue. Things would start to turn really bad over maybe a generation or two. And so, I mean, this has happened where I'm just using this as an example. You're in an earthquake prone in part of the world and you site your grave properly and there's an earthquake and the grave moves.
Mhm.
Then the family starts to fall apart, things start to go bad. And so they go, oh, I wonder what if something happened to the grave. And so they'll go look at the grave shifted, and then maybe the grave needs to be moved. That does happen from time to
I
time.
would like to go, honestly, I'd like to go dig up some people in my family because
And
I'm
move their
starting to
bones.
I'm starting to see a connection here. I'm
Yes.
like, there's got to be something that happened back in the day. They've got to be placed wrong because things just went downhill after a while. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Well, when you live in New York City, you don't have too many options for
You don't
burial
have that many
plots.
options,
I mean, let's just start with that. So,
Yeah.
but okay, I have a question because, you know, I've spent some time in Asia, right? And
Yeah.
so now you've chosen the spot. Now you talk about, because they have some really elaborate and ornate, do you know what I mean, graves and sort
Beautiful.
of buildings, to them. So how does that work? How do you go, okay, I chose the spot now. The person is oriented the right way. Now, all the things, I guess you would call them offerings or whatever you're right there that you're putting there. How does that work? Does that have any play in Feng Shui?
That's more cultural, right? So how you treat the grave is a matter of respect. How often you visit the grave, that's a matter of cultural significance. And then in addition to that, you can just go to the temple and you can pray to your ancestors at the temple, like the nearby temple. So there's that too. So this is not I'll be honest with you, Yin Feng Shui is not my area of expertise. I did study it as part of my training, but it's because it's not something that I'm really going to be practicing here in the United States. Like it's not really my area of expertise. So I know that it is important, but I also know that space is a premium in Asia, right? Because we've just become so populated all over the world that it becomes very difficult to get the primo spot that you would want. That was a lot easier to get hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And so this kind of practice is often really, it's basically being used by people who are elite because they can afford it. They can afford land. They can afford to hire somebody who can do Yin Feng Shui properly. They can get everybody involved to make sure that the grave is maintained. So it's not like a one and done kind of thing because you do need to take care of it.
So if you're we're here in the US, right? So, you know, we are limited, right?
Yes.
In that, and it's not something that you're going to practice here. But is there anything that you would say to someone who wants to, as best as we could, incorporate Feng Shui or Yin Feng Shui? And is that what it's called? I'm sorry, I've got
Yin Feng Shui. Yeah. So there's always, so it's a little bit, so I've not done this and this is not something I'm probably going to do, but when you prepare to die, you go buy a piece of property where you buy a property of a grave. And so sometimes you have certain slots and then from what's available, sort of like buying a house, like if you're buying in a planned community, there's these plots of land, which one should I buy? Same concept, just you're not actually going to live in it as an alive person. You're going to live in it as a dead person.
What should I be looking for though?
Depends on you.
Okay.
It's completely individualized, just like a living house is completely individualized.
Okay.
In theory, right, you would be looking for the energy spot in the land where the chi goes down the mountain correctly and it collects in the right spot.
Okay.
So for example, you might not want to be buried in a flood zone because you wouldn't want your grave to get full of water. That is an example of something that you would want to avoid. Like my own grandparents were buried in a very hilly, it's kind of remarkable how hilly this particular cemetery is where they were buried. And they chose the two spots, like right at the front gate entrance, like at the top of the hill, because all the other family graves were like down and around the hill. And it was like really hard to get to. And sort of interesting how they chose that, partly because of what's available and partly because like they wanted it to be at the top of the hill for different reasons. And that has certainly affected the family. Of course, no way did they know that when they were choosing their grave sites. But sometimes it's just what's available and what feels right, if you can choose.
You know, it's interesting too, because if you're like, hey, throw my ashes in the river, you don't know what's happening to your ancestors. The people that are coming, right? You could be facing upside down. I don't know, you know.
And that might not have been important to that person. And so this is very much about like how important is it So, I mean, it's how do I want to say this? I'm getting all tongue tied. Egyptian practice is very similar, right? They built a mausoleum and pyramids and all this, they treated the bodies. This is very cultural, right? And unfortunately that civilization did not live and that practice has died. But that physical environment has changed so much. But those bodies were well taken care of, but they've been mummified and we can still see them today.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's pretty crazy.
There's amazing death rituals and practices all over the world that have remained and that still help us connect to another dimension, to our ancestors beyond. So it's not necessarily just about the grave, right? Because now people are getting cremated and they're doing natural burial. And so there may not be a gravestone and could just be like a rock. That doesn't disassociate you from the energy of your ancestors. But this concept of yin feng shui is about supporting the lineage as much as possible based on these parameters.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if you got cremated, if you could, I mean, I'm sure there's something against this somewhere, but if you could take those ashes and position them, as we're running out of space, if you could just properly position like your urn, so that it's running down the mountain to where, to your urn, and then you don't have to worry so much about space, right? But you can reap the benefits.
That is one way that you certainly could do it, right? That is a concept, right? It happens to be that in yin feng shui, it's still about where the head is positioned.
Where your head.
Yeah, so we don't even know where your head is once you're cremated.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting really out there. But
but really what you're doing is you're starting to think outside the box. Like, I want feng shui, but our space is limited and I'm going to get cremated. And
I'm totally getting cremated. I'm sorry. Let's do this Viking, burn it up,
You want to burn up the body and go.
It's being done.
I'm thinking we should just cut up the head and keep the head in the grave and then with the ashes, right? And we could really
I don't
know. You're starting a new burial trend. Let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah. It's just gonna be like Disney, just her head frozen in in one of those vats of.
Now we're really getting creepy. Oh my God, can you imagine? Hundreds of years from now, there's this metal container with dust and a skull. Like, what is this about?
And Nicolette's first words is, "And today we're interviewing."
Wow. Listen, I can come up with something, huh?
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, so it's completely individualized, and it has to do with the person's birthday. And
so speaking about that, let's talk about horoscopes. Let's talk about Chinese horoscopes, right?
No, it's astrology, right? That's different. Is that different? That's different.
Well, I mean, the horoscope is sort of the forecast of what comes out of your astrology chart, right? So there is a whole... Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So forecasting is actually a really popular practice in Chinese metaphysics. Forecasting what's going to happen in the year, forecasting what's going to happen to a person based on their chart. Okay. So the Chinese astrology is called the 4 Pillars of Destiny. And it basically translates your birthday to 8 characters through understanding the 5 elements as they're represented based on your year, month, day, and the hour of your birth. And everything is represented in your chart. So it tells us about your personality, your career, your wealth, your family, your romantic relationships, your health prospects. And so when you are using your 4 Pillars of Destiny, it helps you understand yourself better. It helps you make better informed decisions, help you understand your relationship with others, choosing the right career path. We use it in Feng Shui. So this is the human aspect to the things that I do in Feng Shui. I mean, the idea is that your destiny is not pre-written. So you are born with a set of energy. You have an imprint that you take your first breath, and that you have an energy that is imprinted based on when you're born. And when you understand how that works, you can anticipate the probability of outcomes in your life based on the energy that you interact with as you grow and as you evolve in your life and as you have experiences that influence you. And so when we know all that information, we can make some forecast and some about the kinds of outcomes that we can expect based on your personality, your characteristics, the kind of energy you're encountering. And that's a lot of the reason that people want to have a Chinese astrology reading during Chinese New Year time, January and February, Chinese New Year is always February 4th of every year using the solar calendar. The lunar calendar is a different calendar, but I use the solar calendar, which is called the Feng Shui. And then we can have an assessment of like what happened last year, what kind of energy do you think that you're going to end up with this year, and then how is that going to potentially carry over into next year based on the choices that you make with the energy and the experiences that you have in the year.
So how do you start? For instance, I was born in the year of the dog, right? So what does that tell you in December?
Right. So a lot of times, December's the month, right? So then we would check the day, which we're not going to do because we're not going to give your whole chart away, and the hour. So the timing is important. So like a lot of people go to the Chinese restaurant and they look at the placemat and they're like, oh, I was born in the year of the rabbit. And it gives you a couple sentences about telling you about your personality. And sometimes you go, oh, that makes sense. And you're like, not so much. And that's because it's only really addressing 25%, right? Just one of the pillars of your chart. They're called pillars: year, month, day, and hour. And so when you're only looking at just the animal sign, that's not even the full pillar, because it could be a rabbit, it could be a water rabbit, it could be a fire rabbit, it could be an earth rabbit, it could be a metal rabbit. And that also gives us information about your personality and how you present yourself to the world. Actually, the most important part of the chart is the day, the heavenly stem that comes from the day you're born. So you have heavenly stems and earthly branches. So that you have one of the 5 elements in the top, and you have the animal sign, which are the branches at the bottom. So if you say you're born in the dog year, that's great. It could be an earth dog. It could be a metal dog. It could, there's a long list.
How do you know? Wait, how do you know which?
You got to Google it.
Actually, you can Google it. And actually, in my website, Feng Shui in Motion, in the services section, there's something called a BaZi calculator, BAZI, and there's a free calculator where you can type in your birth date, and it'll spit out a free chart, so you can see all the information about your birthday information.
Okay, we're definitely putting a link in the description.
Okay. So
and we're all doing it right after this, by the way.
I was actually going to start doing it right now.
You're going to start doing it right now. Yeah, and then we can talk about your chart. Yeah. And none of the information is saved, so it's not recorded, so it stays private. But so the dog is really interesting because people who have this in their chart usually are really good at keeping secrets. They can be quite intuitive. They are really good at ending things. So a lot of times, not always, but they can be really good at bringing things to an end. So that can be something that is interesting about you, just based on your year. Extremely trustworthy, very, very trustworthy. So, and people like that about you. That's what people see as part of your personality right away. And if you're born in December, depending on when you're born in December, it can be toward the end. Okay. So you're born in winter season. That's December is the month of the rat.
Nice.
Rats are usually very clever. They're very wise. They are often great with connections and resources. Sometimes they can be a little bit of a pack rat, like to store things. My husband has a rat in his chart, and he's very clever. And actually, having a little bit of water in your chart is very helpful because it shows that you have intelligence. If somebody doesn't have water in their chart, then it can potentially be not that they're not smart, but it can be a problem with like EQ versus IQ.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I have a question. I thought I was the year of the dragon, but I'm not seeing any dragons here.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because I haven't looked at your chart, but it can be that the Chinese New Year starts February 4th of every year. So even though you think that you should be born in a dragon year, you could be born the year before if you were actually born in January or early in February.
No.
So, or you just thought it was the year of the dragon and it's just not. So what you want to do is...
No, it is. I'm sorry. I see it here. I see the dragon. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So I felt like my life was a lie for a while. Okay.
So actually, what's really interesting about Chinese astrology is that in Chinese astrology, if you look at the animal signs, it's the rabbit, it's the ox, it's the tiger, it's the monkey, it's a snake, it's the dog, right? It's a pig. The dragon is the only one that's not an animal. It's actually a mystical creature. So it's interesting that the two of you guys work together because you guys are polar opposites on the scale. Like they're called clash animals, actually. But actually opposites attract. So it doesn't surprise me that you guys are working together. Between the two of you make a very powerful combination.
That's right.
I agree. I'm with it.
Metal diamond dog and Nicholas.
I'm a mystical dragon. I got this.
Dragon.
Oh my God. There's like all this other stuff in here. Oh, okay. I see. Intelligence.
I know. It's like
what do
all these
words?
things.
So I'm not even talking about like the actual like response.
Yeah, so you're looking at the stars.
Other words here.
Right, the other words on the right. So when you look at it, this particular chart spits out some additional information about you and the energies that are favorable to you in these other categories: intelligent star, sky horse, peach blossom. So peach blossom is a star that can help with likability, helps with romance, it helps with the ability to attract. So if somebody is looking for romance, I might encourage them to do that in a year where their peach blossom is active. So if your peach blossom is I'm just using this as an example. If the peach blossom is the rat, then last year in the year of the rat, you may have found yourself connecting with people more. You may have found a relationship last year. You might have ended a relationship last year. Intelligent star is great for academics and learning. So if you have an intelligent star in your chart, right? So maybe your intelligent star is, I'm just using this as an example. I don't know what yours is, but maybe it's a horse, for example. So you may find that in those years that you go back to school, or those months you find that you want to take a class or you want to learn something new. And if you actually have a horse in your chart, then you always have that available to you to tap into.
Okay.
That just as an example. Like if you are somebody who has 4 peach blossom stars in your chart, then you're always going to be encountering situations where people want to connect with you for some reason or another.
So
I have a peach blossom in my chart, and when I first learned about this, I didn't understand, because I used to live in California, and in California you don't talk to people at the grocery store. And then I moved to Pennsylvania, where everybody wants to talk to you, but I didn't understand why. Like people would come up to me like at the grocery store, "Hi, how are you?" And they're like just chatting with me, and I'm like, "Why are you talking to me?" But it's because I had a peach blossom star in my chart, and so but it wasn't until I really understood with the chart what it does as to like why that was happening.
So what are the lucky pillars?
10-year luck pillars. So in addition to your 4 pillars of destiny, your year, month, day, and hour, all of the charts are broken into what are called 10-year luck pillars, which are extra layers of energetic evolution in your life to tell us when things may happen. And so with kids, your luck opens sometime between when you're born and age 10. So when you look at your luck pillar, maybe it'll say age 8, starting at age 8. So then it's 8 to 18, 18 to 28, 28 to 38 is a 10-year period. And so then you could look back on your life and you go, okay, what happened when I was age 8? Maybe a parent got into an accident, or a sibling got really sick, or maybe your parent had another child, or maybe you moved, or something significant would have happened where what's called your luck opened. Before that, you ride on your parents' luck. And so you're going to open up your own luck sometime between when you're born and when you turn 10. So then when those mile markers hit in your life, maybe your luck opens when you're 5, then it's age 15, age 25, age 35. Usually something around that time period, something significant will happen. And it can be like a year before, a year after.
All right. So I have a question. So then there's like the luck pillars, and then it says like, it looks like a group of years. Like mine says 2004 to 2014. I'm assuming that's like
that's your 10-year luck period. So during that period, the animal sign and the element above the animal sign, so it's a heavenly stem and earthly branch, are going to be an extra layer of stuff that is like overriding for that 10-year period. So for that 10-year period, if it's around money, it could be that you save money, it could be that you spend money. And then in that 10 years, the annual pillar, the annual animal sign that comes in to visit can also add an extra layer of, maybe you'll have a really good year in that 10-year period. Maybe it'll be a crappy year. Maybe it'll be a okay year. Like it depends on how it comes together.
Right. The reason why I'm asking is, Nicolette, what year did I meet you? Give or take.
2011.
Okay, so between 2004 and 2014, my little animal thing is a dragon.
Ooh, that's me.
Okay. 2012 is the year of the dragon. So you guys met in 2011, and you guys probably started cooking up stuff in 2012.
Yeah, probably. That's probably pretty accurate. I mean, that's why I was like curious. That's why I was asking all those questions. Like, what are those? I'm like, that's interesting. If that's a year and she's the year of the dragon, look, she's right there. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And so there's probably something else in your chart that attracted her to you at that time that we're not going to go into in this particular conversation. And there could be something in her chart too, right, that brought her to you for one reason or another. I'm guessing, without looking at your guys' chart, that each of you or one of you is a nobleman to the other person. So in your little chart on the right-hand side, you've got the thing about the stars. And everybody wants to know what their nobleman star is, because noblemen are like helpful people that come in and support you. And so I find that I'm usually somebody's nobleman when in my practice. Because people are looking for help, and so I'm usually somebody's nobleman. And noblemen are great because they come in and make things smoother and help you when you need support. And so it's very common for a spouse to be like my spouse is my nobleman. Bless his little heart. I cannot live on this earth without him. Spouses are often noblemen. Parents are often noblemen. Sometimes your kids are your noblemen. And it can also just be like a doctor or a lawyer, somebody that you encounter. It could be your boss. It could be somebody that is in your life for a short period of time. Like if you're dealing with a problem at work, it could be that the person in HR is your nobleman to help you through a situation.
Right.
So it doesn't always have to be an intimate.
Is that for your life, or is that just during a certain period? Like, how does that work?
Well, the nobleman star will never change. So if, for example, your nobleman is an ox, or it says Cho, Chou, so we're currently in the year of the ox. So if somebody has a nobleman that is the ox, then they're in their nobleman year, which makes it can potentially make it a good time to make a change, whether it's changing boss or changing a house or changing job, or it's not always changing a relationship, but it can, when you're trying to do those things, it can make things smoother. Sometimes you have to plan for them though. Sometimes it's don't make a change and use help around you for other things. It just depends on what the goal is. If it's an academic goal, if it's a financial goal, if it's a career goal, if it's everything has a particular purpose.
Okay, so I have double metal. I'm yang metal twice in my stem column. So it's ax in the year and the day. What does that mean?
Okay, so the keystone to your chart is the yang metal. So that tells me a lot about your personality. I'm not gonna have you reveal the animal sign underneath it, because that'll tell us a whole lot about your spouse. So we're not gonna go there. But when we start to break down these elements, we start to look at the imagery of the particular element. So all the elements are going to have polarity. They're going to have a yang stem or a yin stem. So you can be yang metal or yin metal. You can be yang water or yin water. And these are what are called the heavenly stems. So people who are, first of all, we want to be really nice to Brian, because anybody who has a yang metal day master stem, we want to be nice to them because their lives can sometimes be really challenging. They go through a lot of stuff in life.
Yeah, you can say that.
We want to be really, really nice to our yang metal people. These are people who often have the characteristics of being rough and tough and aggressive and impetuous, and sometimes a little square. Very upright, very loyal. They are altruistic and honest and can be very decisive. And these are characteristics that are not always going to be shown to the public, but in your case, because you also have yang metal in the year, people absolutely see you that way. Because the day master is like your true essence, and the year, what's in the year is more visible. So if your year stem was not yang metal, which is the same as your day, then people may see you differently. And this whole these characteristics of being tough and being altruistic and, being sort of like a tough judge, but sort of fair at the same time, only the people that were closest to you would really know that about you.
Wait,
but it happens to be that because you have them.
Then if I'm yin metal in my day to him, like, are we opposite? If I'm like, is that
yin yang?
So yin and yang, right? So you guys are friends because there's a lot of things that make you feel comfortable with each other because you're both yin and yang. Yin metal is very different, and also you're very beautiful. You have great skin. So usually people who have yin metal day masters, like Angelina Jolie is a great example, have beautiful skin. Usually very beautiful women, people who like to look good, are often into jewelry, pretty things. For men, it's often watches, beautiful objects. I don't like this word, but it's a good descriptor, right? It can be like the diva of the show, can be a little bit competitive. Like there could be a little competitive thing going on between the two of you guys, but there's also like this very delicate, very sensitive side, probably very good at speaking. You might speak more than one language. Do you speak more than one language?
No.
You do not, but you're well spoken. I mean, you're doing this. This is your job. You're well spoken. I'm guessing you probably like to eat well, like to go.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yes.
So it's kind of opposite. Like I'm sensing like an oppositeness. That's not.
Well, there's a lot in your guys' chart that's really, I mean, I can't wait. I should do this as a case study.
I
You
know.
guys are opposite attract.
Okay.
on one
I have a
level.
question. I have a question for Nicolette. And that row that says branch that you said not to reveal what's under it. And am I one of the symbols under yours?
No.
See, it's interesting because you're one of them under mine.
What's crazy is you're not in here at all. I don't see you anywhere.
No dogs.
I don't even see anybody I know in here, which is like bizarre. Like maybe one. My son, I see my son in here like a lot. That's it.
Well, there's a lot of other things that represent your children, right? So, so just as an example, we're just going to use you because you're a woman, and you have the child. So for the 5 elements productive cycle, water produces wood, wood produces fire, fire produces earth, earth produces metal, metal produces water. So in your chart, we would be looking for some little blue symbol, something that has to do with water, and that would represent your children. If it's yin water, then that would be a daughter. If it's yang water, then it would be a son.
Oh my
Because you're looking
God.
Oh, that's interesting because I
You're
have
looking for
water.
your output.
I have water in my next one, and it's yin water.
Do you have
Daughters, yeah.
a daughter? I was going to say.
I have 3.
Okay.
So pick one.
So in other parts of your chart, we would be looking for 3. And there's another system.
I'm sorry. Does this mean I'm going to have a child in 2021 to 2031 if I have yin water in my? No, right? Please tell me no. Please tell me that's not indicative of any like other children.
Well, there's always free will, right? So you can always go get an IUD,
Always
or your
free will.
husband can go get a vasectomy.
That is
right?
true. There is free will, Nicolette.
There's always free will, right? But if
There's
you were
also
somebody who was
abstinence.
it could be an accident. But if you were somebody who was a client of mine and you were a yin metal person and you were like, oh, I really want to have a baby, then next year, which is a yang water tiger year, would be a year that was your output year. So you may have more opportunity.
Your output year.
Popping out babies.
Yeah, your output of children. You get a buy one, get one free.
It's a good year to do your IVF, so you can get your bang for your buck.
Well, I do have a yang water rat, and that is my son. I don't know if that matters, but I do see that in here.
Okay.
That's cool.
Is that in your hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the hour pillar represents your children.
Oh shit.
So wait, so what's the difference between stem and branch though? Which one's child? Or hidden? What's a hidden stems?
Oh my gosh. We're going to go into a whole
so many
Chinese
questions.
astrology lesson in this call.
Oh my gosh. So we went from graves to like, Brian has been talking about this though for months. I will say that. He has been dying to ask you questions.
Okay. So heavenly stems are the energy that comes from heaven. It's the stuff that's on the surface. It's usually the stuff that's most visible. The branches, so it's a little bit like a tree. So it's the stuff that's on the tree, at the top of the tree. The branch is like the body, the trunk of the tree, and the hidden stems are the roots under the ground, the stuff that's hidden. And so the hidden stems also represent other things. It can represent relationships. It can be about your money. Like when someone says, I don't have money, I want to see their chart because they can have their money can be hidden.
Interesting.
Just saying.
That's right. Feng Shui detective.
Right. I can't pay you. Are you sure you can't pay me? Because I will be able to tell you where
She's
your
like,
money
it's
is.
right here in this chart. You have a hidden bank account.
I'm telling you. You're not telling me the truth.
Could I ask a question in terms of hidden? So when you say, I'm just going to use this as the example, right? Something like, let's say money is hidden. Could it be that like you have this untapped potential? Like there's like money that you haven't discovered in yourself yet? Like, does that make sense? Like you're sitting on some potential money maker, right?
Well, it can show up in your 10-year list. So the answer is yes, and it can show up at a particular time. So for example, indirect wealth, which is sometimes referred to as IW in a chart, indirect wealth, usually comes in lump sum. So it could be like an inheritance, which is why it's not necessarily so visible, because it's in a trust and it's kept hidden and people don't really know about it. And you might not get it until it shows up at a particular time later in life after somebody passes away.
Okay.
That's one aspect of it. And the other aspect of it is you're just really conservative. It could be that you're conservative with your money and you don't want to tell people how much you have, that you're happy to pay the bill when you go out to dinner, and you just don't want people to know how much money you have.
Okay.
It's okay. And it's also really interesting when it comes to relationships, because you can see an affair. When you know what you're looking for, you can see entanglements, you can see an affair, you can see when someone is a little good at academics, when it's a time for them to study.
Everyone better go to this website and pump their birth date in there. That's all I got to say.
And then you got to get Jillian to help you understand what the hell it all is.
Right, because otherwise you're like, I'm just looking at a ring, or I'm just looking at a flower.
I got some jewelry going on here. I don't know. I guess
I got a jewelry thing here. Yeah, I'm like, what is all? Yeah. There's lots of questions and a lot of repeating things. So you're like, okay, so what does this mean? Is this going to be like a 30-year decade event? Because you see things like almost carry through on certain parts. So it's actually really
so it's kind of fun to do with like famous people, because famous people, like, their lives are very public. So you can look at their charts and you can see very clearly when someone became famous, when they got divorced, when they got married again, when Arnold Schwarzenegger stopped doing Muscle Man movies and went into politics, and now he's stopped politics. And like, you can see these things in someone's chart. And it's very interesting. And then when you look on your own life, you go, oh, this time period was when I, had lots of resource, and it was when I was in college and I went to grad school and I did lots of studying. And then I went into an output period. And so then I was like really interested in writing a book and performing, and these things happen. And so it's very cyclical. And so you can sort of plan for stuff.
That's
what it's for. It's to forecast and get an idea.
How do you see the next? Oh, I guess in that 10-year period.
So if you look, it actually shows like your past too.
Yes.
Like your past.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so look, and there's my little
rat.
Your little water rat. Is that what it was?
No, if you tell him he's a rat, be nice. Be nice. Could be a highly emotional rat.
That's right.
He wants to maybe he's got something in his chart where he's a little intuitive, like he wants to know about his chart.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, you can go and put in your children's information and get their chart, and you can start to get to understand a little bit about their personality. So when you understand what the elements are, what the characteristics of the elements are, how they interact. This is why people study this information, because they want to know themselves better first, so they can be the best version of themselves. And then when they understand themselves and how they are in the world, then they can look at their children, their spouses. Like, it can actually be really freeing to understand your chart, understand what your strengths are, understand where your gaps are, so you can focus on your strengths. Like for me, when I went through like a whole self-help period of my life, which is in my chart, I went through a whole self-help period. I came to Chinese astrology, and it really helped me understand myself better. And so I could be the best version of myself at work, and I could interact with my boss in a particular way. And I could say, hey, I can do this. This is what I can do. And this is what I can't do. Go talk to somebody else for this, but this is what I can do for you. And so it really helped me show off, for lack of a better term, show off the best parts of myself, so the company could use the best parts of myself so that everybody can win. I make money, they make money, everybody's happy. And then I'm at that company for over 10 years doing really well, and it's like a win-win situation. So when you understand yourself better, then you can also go like, this is how I am in a relationship. These are my true characteristics. If something that's important to me is to eat well and to be seen, then I'm sort of picking on you a little bit, but if that's true for me, then I'm going to say to my spouse, like, I need a little budget to go get my nails and get my hair done, because that's really important to me to feel good. In my chart, I don't have that, but I bet you do.
I do.
Right.
Okay.
And so once you know that, then you can plan for it.
That's right. That's the jewelry symbol in there. Yeah. Pay for it all. So I have a question. You mentioned children, right? I have twins.
Yes.
How does that work? Because technically they would have the same, they were born within the same hour, right?
Maybe. So the hour is a 2-hour window. So it's like 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and it goes on a 24-hour clock. So if the one child was born at 4:45 and the other child was born at 5:15, the charts would be different. If they're born in the same hour, there's a technique for that. So the child that's born first gets one aspect of the chart, and the second child gets a different hour. There's a process for that.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But actually, Chimen Dunja, the other divination system that I use, which is not, it is a service I provide, but it's actually not a calculation that you can do on this site. It's actually way more interesting for twins because you can use the same chart for twins and you can see it in a different way. It's really fascinating.
I mean, it's interesting because to my understanding, in a lot of Asian cultures, twins are like some magical unicorn type of thing. Like every time, right? Every time, I'm with my twins.
Very special. Yeah.
People, especially, Asian people, especially if they're from Asia, always stop and like, are they twins? And they'll start talking, right away. Especially
if they're identical and the same sex, right? But if you have a boy and a girl, then the charts are going to be totally different. Even though it's the same hour, a male and female chart is different and calculated differently. But if it's the same sex, then that's going to be the same chart. It has to be read differently.
Yeah.
Even identical twins will say, like, if you do research, they talk about how there are things that are the same and there are things that are not the same. And that those nuances are seen in the chart. It's fascinating.
It is. Wow. I've got so many questions now, but
I know.
We can keep talking.
Oh my goodness. This is just, it's just so, it's wild. It really is. It's just so wild. I guess, well, I mean, I don't understand what the bottom, like there's a lot of, are these abbreviations in the hidden stems, or are these actual terms that I'm just not familiar with?
That's okay. So the hidden stems are hidden stems in the branches. So this is a little bit more, this is definitely like an academic answer. But essentially, if you have an animal, like we're going to just pick on the ox because we're in the year of the ox. So the ox carries the main chi, or the main element of yin earth. And around it, on either side of the ox, you're going to see a sign for yin metal and yin water. So the branch also carries these other elements, these other stems in the branch. And that becomes important when we're talking about different aspects of someone's life, whether it's wealth, health, career, because when we know how that element interacts with your day master, then we can identify what will potentially give you the opportunity, what would happen in this year. Because you're then interacting with these other hidden stems, extra goodies in the year, if you will.
And not high W's, by the way. Does that mean I have some indirect wealth?
You have some indirect wealth in your chart.
Oh, shit. Where is it?
Don't tell everybody.
I gotta find it.
What's it coming?
It's a mystery even to me.
Right. So here's the trick. The trick is, with other aspects of your chart, can you use it? Can you grab it? There may be other things happening in your chart where you may not be able to grab it, or it's not the right time.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So like there are people who you look at their chart and you go, oh my God, there's a ton of money in this chart, but they're just a regular person. They've got regular money. It's because they're either not using the right opportunity, they're not grabbing it the right way, they can't grab it. There's something else going on in the chart.
Gotcha.
And it can also be Feng Shui. So it's never just one thing. So we look at these charts, so we understand what a person's energy is carrying, and then in the Feng Shui, we put it together with the Feng Shui to optimize the opportunities for getting more of what you want. It's never a guarantee. There's always free will. There's always circumstances that come in play. But what we're doing with Feng Shui and Chinese astrology is putting them together to increase your quotient of luck. We want to increase your quotient of good luck, which is essentially opportunity. If you are prepared for the opportunity and you know what's going to come, then you can go through a situation smoother, whether it's good or bad. And that's more of what we want in life.
Okay.
Just happier.
So as long as your ancestors aren't buried upside down, you're cool.
And as long as they have their heads, right? So
Well, we don't want to say that. I mean, some people have ancestors that were cremated and they're still doing really well, right? So,
yeah,
if something that's important to you and your culture, then go to Asia. Hire an amazing yin master Feng Shui.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, this is a lot of fun. Brian, do you have any other questions for Jillian? Brian? Earth. Brian?
A million of them,
Oh,
but
my
I
little
think
dog friend. Where are you?
we're running out of time.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure before we let Jillian off the hook so that she stopped asking her all these questions. I'm
Well,
like,
what we need to do is we need to prepare for Chinese New Year. So Chinese New Year is in February, and we can come back and we can start talking about next year, and we can take a closer look. We can prep, and we can do a closer look at your chart if you want to share. We can do a sample chart. We can go through all that.
Yeah, no, Brian and I have no problem telling everybody what.
I mean, I think we already told, like, we probably gave away, 60% of our charts already on this.
I mean, in Asia, a lot of this information is a commodity because people can do nasty things when they know what your chart is. They can.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is why some people are this is why I'm like, don't tell everybody this information because you might not want people to know. It is a little bit of a commodity. And so you want to. We're not necessarily so vicious here in the United States. We're like, this is a lot more fun than it is ferocious. But there are people who will do nasty things with information.
Oh my goodness. Now we gotta watch out.
When someone's getting divorced, right? Someone comes to me and says, "I'm getting divorced. What should I do?" First, I go, "Well, is the spouse have money? Should you go after the money? When should you get divorced? Is now a good time? Should you wait? Like, should you try to work it out? Like, is there an affair going on? Like, there's that stuff that you can look at.
Right. Look for that jewelry symbol in his chart or her chart.
He's a diva. Better watch out.
Right. Get them gems.
Go get the money there.
Well, Jillian, we really, really had a lot of fun tonight. So thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad that we got you here. And we will, I'm sure, talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks, y'all, for having me on.
Wait, Jillian, tell everybody, lastly, where I know we've talked about it before, but one more time, please point everybody where they can learn more about you and where they can take this.
Sure. Yeah. So Feng Shui in Motion is the business, and the website is fsinmotion.com. That's fsinmotion.com. And if you want your own chart, you can go to the services section and go to the BaZi calculator and put your information in. You can also sign up for my newsletter on the website. So I do a monthly newsletter to talk about the energy. So if you know your chart, then I can give you information about what you can expect in the month and how you can use that energy and talk a little bit about Feng Shui. I'm also available to be reached through Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I'd be happy to connect with everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Jillian.
Yeah, thanks for having me, y'all.